Hi, this is Jeff Mitchell with the Golf Standard. Today we're talking about pitch shots and how to develop some basic fundamentals to help you be successful. What is a pitch shot? Well, generally speaking, it's a shot anywhere from about 20 or 25 yards out away from the green out to probably a little less than 100 yards. All of these are less than full swings and require you to take a length of swing that is generally appropriate for the length of shot you're trying to hit. There are four basic elements that I want you to make sure you keep in mind when you're working on pitch shots. And number one is the lie. It is really important that depending on the type of shot you're trying to hit, that you have a lie that supports that. The second is understanding how far you want to carry the golf ball in the air. So your carry distance ends up being really important. The third part is how much you want the ball to roll out. So it's what do you want the ball to do in the air and what you want the ball to do on the ground. And the last one is choosing that trajectory and the amount of spin it takes to hit the shot that you have chosen based on that carry and that roll. And so depending on what type of shot you're trying to hit, there's three things you really need to focus on. One being the loft of the club, one being the bounce on the club, and the third being the club head speed you're trying to generate. So the loft of the club obviously has an impact on the trajectory of the shot you're trying to hit. If you need to hit a higher shot, more loft on the club. The bounce is a little bit more interesting. If you set up with the club face square and in a proper place in your stance, the bounce doesn't really have much of an effect. But if you're trying to add a little bit of loft to the club or open the club face a little bit, you're going to introduce a little bit of bounce. And the only reason that's significant is that it's dependent upon the lie that you have. If you do have some grass in between the ball and the dirt, that's probably not going to be a problem. If you get into a really thin lie, that can make it a little bit problematic in that the bounce might hit the ground first, kind of propel the club into the golf ball, and you lose a lot of control. And then the third is club head speed, and that is you're probably going to get more spin with more club head speed, which means that if you have a club with more loft, you're going to be able to put more speed on it and still not hit the ball quite as far. A couple other things to consider would be your angle of attack, the dynamic loft of the club, and the actual amount of spin you're trying to put on the golf ball. Now, what I have set up here is I have an alignment rod that is going directly towards my target, and then I have one alignment rod coming outside and across and the other one inside out. If you're trying to hit pitch shots and you're trying to manipulate the actual loft of the club, or you want to use the bounce, that kind of thing, one of the easiest ways is to change your angle of attack. Well, generally what that means is as you take the club back and you come through, the club is traveling down to meet the golf ball. So you hit the golf ball, then hit the ground. And if you do that, chances are you're going to be able to hit the ball really solidly on the face, get the ball to grab coming up that face, put some spin on the ball. If you're trying to hit the golf ball high, generally speaking, you'll set up and take the club outside and across and kind of what's called hold that off. So you're adding a little loft, or at least maintaining the loft as you come through. And that's real good when you're trying to hit the ball real high, but it doesn't necessarily help you a lot when you're trying to put a lot of spin on the golf ball. If you're trying to put a medium amount of spin on the golf ball, then setting up with the club face square, taking the club basically straight back on plane, making good contact and bringing it through on plane is going to give you a medium trajectory shot and a very modest or medium amount of spin. If you're really trying to control what the golf ball does on the ground, though, you want to try and change the axis of spin on the golf ball. So you get it to where it's got this little bit of a kind of a hook spin. The ball generally comes in a little bit lower, but it also has a lot more spin, and it gives you a lot of control of the ball on the ground. To achieve that, as you set up, you will place the ball a little bit back in the stance, club face nice and square, maybe even a degree closed, but the difference is you're going to take the club a little bit inside and bring it a little bit inside out, and you're going to be taking a little bit of the loft off the club. And to do that, to de-loft the club, to take this from 58 degrees to a dynamic loft, which is the difference between the actual loft and the loft at impact, one of the best tips I can give you is you want to generally just feel like you have the club sitting down here and you're trying to drag it all the way through the hitting area. So as you get up and you're trying to hit a really well-controlled shot, good trajectory, a lot of spin, You're going inside out. That ball's coming off a little bit low and lands on the green and really checks. So those are three different things that you can look at to help you with your pitch shots. If you know the carry distance, you know the spin rate you want to put on it, you've really come to a conclusion about that trajectory and spin, the next thing you have to do is just simply learn how to control those shots. So a lot of it is in setup. If you want the golf ball to go a medium trajectory, you want to put it basically in the center of the stance. If you want to add loft, you can put it up close to where you would put a driver, get it really close to the bottom of the swing, and you can introduce bounce as long as that lie permits it. If you're trying to hit the golf ball a little lower, then you might set up with the ball a little bit farther back in the stance, get a little bit more shaft lean. That's going to take some loft off the club, and it's also going to help you add a little bit of spin to the shot. The last thing that I would tell you is that a lot of what I do in my pitch shots is, if I have a 30-yard shot, a 40-yard shot, 50, 60, 70, I actually hit them with all the same amount of effort. The only thing that I really try to do when I'm trying to change the distance of the shots that I hit is to change the length of the swing and the amount of wrist action that I use in that swing. When I feel like I'm hitting really good pitch shots, I feel like I'm hitting them all with basically the same amount of effort. And I get really good touch, I get really good control from there. So as you go out and work on your pitch shots, pay close attention to the length of swing and make sure that length of swing, the amount of wrist action you're putting into it, is appropriate for the length of the shot that you're trying to hit. Have fun with your pitch shots. Go out there, be specific, use a rangefinder, make sure you know the information about how far it's going and how much spin you're putting on it. Take a friend out there to help you with that, but have a good time learning how to hit great pitch shots. Till next time.